Yes. So anybody remembers what we did in verse 10? Anything you remember from the discussion?
Oh, and I remember we talked about some of the qualities like pride, humility, um,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to develop in order to develop humility, we have to have a sense of gratitude and always have a sense of remembrance that what has been done for us.
Mm.
And
Okay. Anything else,
so
anyone?
And
mhm.
Hare
Go ahead.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Hare Krishna. Yes, I can
Yeah,
hear
Prabhuji,
you.
we also talked about gunas, right? The
Mm-hmm.
gunas that Krishna Bhagwan has, and the gunas that are um, what the less gunas we have, but Krishna Bhagwan has the most, basically all the gunas that he needs. So anybody that has lesser gunas, like Shiv Bhagwan has less gunas than Krishna Bhagwan. So we had talked about that also.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Okay. There was a discussion about Dhira. We talked about who Dhira is, and Prabhupada was talking about that only. Uh, Dhira is as where is that? Prabhupada was talking about it in the right towards the end section. So who listens from a spiritual master? Prabhupada was stressing on the fact that to become a Dhira, you have to hear from a spiritual master. That was important, right? Uh, we have to take shelter of our guru. And Prabhupada gave a very clear-cut principle that you follow the regulatory principles, take shelter of the spiritual master because you're getting the message from him, and by submissively hear from a spiritual master, and then we become a dhira. That was dhira concept. Okay, so let's go to 11th verse, right? So as we talked about, ninth, avidya takes to darkness, and vidya even a worse darkness. It has sophisticated darkness. Prabhupada calls it the royal road to hell. Right? And 10th said, Vidya gives one result, Avidya gives one result. And the 11th said, Avidya and Vidya together take us to mortality. That's the message of the 11th verse. So let's see what the verse is. Vidyam cha yash tadvedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessing of immortality. As I said, very good say that. So in the earlier verses, avidya was are telling us that we'll go into darkness, to hell. But here the avidya is said that you have to learn it side by side with transcendental knowledge. And then you will enjoy immortality, blessings of immortality. That's a very interesting way of putting it. So here, avidya refers to knowledge for bodily maintenance, and vidya is for Krishna consciousness, right? So when one knows these two, one will attain eternal existence, right? When we are in an ocean, we need to know how to ride the boat, uh, but then also we need to know where the land is, right? So that we have to know those two things. Yeah, we have to know how to ride the boat, but then also know where the land is where I need to go. If you just know how to ride the boat, but we don't know where the land is, there's not much use. And if you know where the land is, but you don't know how to ride a boat, again, it's not much use. So if one only has spiritual knowledge, but no bodily knowledge, one will not be able to survive in this world. We have this material body, so we have to be practical. We have to survive in this world, right? So uh, the material knowledge we talked about here is not to give pleasure to yourself, right? It's not atyahara priyasascha. It's not that kind of a material knowledge, but it's just saying how to live fruitfully and purposefully. That's the way to understand it. That's the material knowledge being talked about. That kind of material knowledge will help us navigate the problems of life, right? What is it that I'm meant to achieve? So yes, you can, if we rise our consciousness, we can transcend these material problems also. So purposeful life. And what is that one purpose that we all have? Mahaprabhu has given it to us. Janma sarthaka kari, kara paropkar. There are two actually Mahaprabhu is saying that. Janma sarthak kari, kara paropkar. Janma sarthak kara means make your life perfect and then give it to others. There is nothing more moving for the heart than to be able to contribute to people's life in a way that they discover what they have been searching for lifetimes, even if they don't know it. And everybody is looking for happiness. And in this material world, there is no happiness. So the first thing is we have to janma sarthak kari. We have to take care of ourselves, fortify ourselves. And then we move on to uh, other people, start giving it to others. One of Prabhupada's disciples, his name is Satyadev Prabhu. He lives in Japan. He preaches a lot in Japan. And he was a paramedic for 20 years. And the first day he went to paramedic, they told him that dead paramedics can't save anyone. So the first duty is to save yourself. So when you go to a site of an accident, make sure you don't get, poisoned. If there is some kind of carbon dioxide poisoning in the house, you don't get burned. You don't get burned. If there a kind of a fire anywhere, and you don't, get blown up or something or get shot. Yeah. So the first thing is to protect yourself. Right. So that's the first thing. And secondly, the second duty, the duty of those who are deputized by Mahaprabhu to spread the Krishna consciousness movement is to make sure that they fortify themselves, right? So that's the first duty. Then is to give it to others. Somebody once asked Prabhupada that, hey, Prabhupada, why is this Maya, material nature, so hard to overcome? Prabhupada said, it's not hard to overcome. You just not fortified yourself enough. Your intentions are still weak. So Prabhupada told us, take care of your health, good diet, enough rest, good attitude, clean life. You don't fall sick, right? Similarly, if you take care of yourself spiritually, especially by chanting, then one becomes fortified against Maya. Right? So first thing, take your medicine yourself, be aware of your high purpose, and then give it to others. Right? So that's the purpose. Janma sarthak kari, kara paropkar. So now we all can have uh, we can also have a unique purpose. It's not that we just need to have a one broad purpose. We also can have unique purposes, right? You can combine your passion with your expertise and use it for Krishna's service. That is perfect. And that is basically what dharma means. Chaturvarnya maya shishtam guna karma vibhage. So what is guna and karma? Your passion and your expertise. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is about dharma, about taking what your purpose is. The first word, what's the first verse of Bhagavad Gita? Who can tell me that?
Prabhu Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Sam.
Yeah, okay, you got it right. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. So the first word of Bhagavad Gita is dharma. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetra. So dharma is the first word of Bhagavad Gita. Right? So the whole Bhagavad Gita is encapsulating dharma. Right? And where does the Bhagavad Gita end? What's the last verse of Bhagavad Gita? Who knows the last word of Bhagavad Gita? Anybody? No? So last verse is also by Sanjaya. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Tatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shrir Vijaya Bhuti, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So the last word of Bhagavad Gita is Mama, me. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is encapsulating dharma. And when we read Bhagavad Gita closely, you'll find your dharma in it. 11th chapter is all about, like, for example, if you see the 11th chapter, it's all about finding confidence. For example, it's about universal form, the 11th chapter. Krishna shows his universal form and the past, present, and the future. So Arjuna sees that divinity already has a plan. I simply have to be an instrument, right? If we just give our best effort and simply become an instrument in Krishna's plan, then he will arrange for all the other things to transpire for us, right? So that gives us confidence that, oh yeah, Krishna is taking care. So it's a chapter about confidence, right? I become confidence in myself, knowing that I have become an instrument in the hands of Krishna, right? So otherwise, where do you find the kind of confidence like Prabhupada? It doesn't come from material things. So ultimate way to be confident is rely on Supreme Person. So yeah, I'm just giving an example that how Bhagavad Gita, if you read it threadbare and understand it, then it teaches us our dharma. Right? If we are dependent on Krishna, then you can take risks in life. You won't feel insecure because you're dependent on Krishna. Krishna is taking care. So the deepest kind of self-development comes from spiritual development. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches how to have good relationships. Right? Don't just try to get from people, help them. So Bhagavad Gita is teaching us dharma at every point. If we don't follow dharma, we get bewildered in making decisions. So when I say dharma, I'm talking about material dharma. So as we have talked about in the past, right? There is swadharma and there is apadharma. So swadharma is my dharma, which is in the material world, and apadharma is my spiritual dharma to connect with Krishna. Yeah? So that's the two different dharma. But we have to harmonize both of them. That's what means material life and spiritual life. Doing them side by side. Right? So, so what the speaker is saying in here is that the blessings of immortality come when we take both of these things side by side. And the way Prabhupada has divided this, let's see where it is. The purport, it's the longest purport in this book, 14 paragraphs. And he's saying that the first thing, so because immortality is being talked about, Prabhupada will explain the first 5 paragraphs through scriptural examples, and also through, in a practical way, how immortality is impossible materially, right? And then he will teach in the remaining 6 to 14 paragraph, he will teach how immortality is only possible by Krishna's teaching. And then he will divide it, how Krishna himself comes to teach immortality, or he sends some of his loved ones. And then he'll give examples of sense gratification. He'll teach us about how to balance both of them. And then how eventually we have to give up everything. Then we become Sarv-dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. That's the final Prabhupada will talk about. So, but then he's going to gradually build up. He's going to teach us how to balance both material and spiritual, and then eventually even give up that part. So let's walk through it. So in the initial paragraphs, as I said, Prabhupada is going to give scriptural examples. So Prabhupada is giving example of Hiranyakashipu, right? So why is it impossible to attain immortality in this material world? So Hiranyakashipu, he used all his knowledge and austerity to try to attain immortality. Right? But could he become immortal? No. Prahlad Maharaj says this in the 7th canto, 9th chapter, in his prayers to Nursing Day. He says that, right? Kalat mano panaye mam nija bhritya parshavam. That I have seen everything disappear in a second, whatever my father had. All the demigods were his servants. And just with a flicker of his eyebrow, he could make the clouds rain and the earth to bear crops and whatnot. So Hiranyakashipu demonstrated as a negative example of how immortality cannot be achieved. Because the reason being, because demons want immortality, but without the consciousness that will take them to immortality. His consciousness was of envy towards Vishnu. He wanted to kill Vishnu. Right? And similarly, in today's world, there are no. So he was doing mystic power, right? He was getting mystic power. So there is mystic power and there is scientific power. So mystic power means reaching out to higher beings for some qualities. That's what he did. Brahma came, gave him some boon. And nowadays, in scientific power, we are doing the same thing. We are trying to control material nature, but we are not taking into account higher beings. We're trying to do it ourselves. So that's even worse. And Prabhupada tells in his books that how mystic power, one of the mystic powers that you could fly in the sky. Now, scientifically, we have done that. We are flying in aeroplanes, right? So that's been done. So yeah, but then there is no account of higher beings in the spirit, in the scientific power. Today's people are diverting all the efforts to controlling nature by scientific advancement. So, and there is a lot of study going on around can we attain immortality at the material level? I don't know if you all read it. There's a huge hype about this. Uh, you know, there's a lot of study where they have found genes in rats and mice and whatnot that causes aging, right? And then now more recently, they have found out that it's not just one gene; it's a cluster of genes. It's a network of genes that cause the aging. And what is aging? Right? We are undergoing those six changes, right? We are born. Um, we grow, right? We grow, we sustain, we reproduce, and then we deteriorate, and then we die. So that's the way anything that has a living entity in it goes through the steps. Matter does not reproduce, so matter does not go through all these six steps, right? Yeah, it does come into being and it does get destroyed at one point, but then there is no growth, there is no reproduction, there is uh, uh, no any of those things. Yeah, there's no sustenance or anything. So yeah, so that's basically what uh, people are trying to achieve, but that's not possible because it's incomprehensible. We don't know how these changes are taking place. So all the physical symptoms anywhere you see are an signal towards the presence of soul. So scientists have figured out mechanisms. How does blood clot, for example? But this is just how. Why? Why is the purpose of something to happen? What is the purpose behind it? So that why is missing. So essentially, this body is something we cannot control, right? Uh, but then yeah, there is continuous hype about trying to find out which cells are causing aging, and but then people have figured out, artificial ways, Botox, teeth replacement, heart replacement. People are trying to be immortal, but the material nature will make us helplessly old. So we have to submit to some higher principle that makes us do things against our will. Right? So nature is not going itself to be manipulated. You cannot manipulate nature. Yeah, you cannot change the basic principles of nature. You might change something here and there. You can make tech advancements here and there, but we cannot manipulate nature in the basic nature of basic principles of nature, of which death is one of the basic ones, right? But the question comes, where does my desire of immortality come from? Right? We cannot. We would. Why would we desire something that's impossible? When we have thirst, there is water. When we feel cold, there are things that make us warm. Right? All our inner longings are provided for in this world. So if desire to be immortal is so deeply rooted, where is it coming from? Right? Vedic scriptures tell us that it comes from the part of us that is immortal, the Atma, the soul. Right? So where does Krishna say that soul is immortal? Anybody remembers from Bhagavad Gita? Which chapter? Chapter, tell me the chapter. Which chapter does
Second chapter.
Yes, second chapter.
Second
Okay.
chapter.
Well, that's good. Do you know any of the verses that Krishna speaks about?
I don't know the Sanskrit, but it's the na hanyati something like
Oh,
na
that's a good one.
shushati na
Yeah,
hanyati.
that's a good one. Yeah, so there's a section in Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, verse number, I think it starts at 11, it goes up to 30, where Krishna answers Arjun's question about compassion, because Arjuna was showing compassion towards his elders. And Krishna answers that by telling that they all are a soul, and you cannot kill a soul. Right? Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purana, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. That comes in somewhere in that 20th, I think it's the 20th verse. So yes, So Krishna tells us that. So it's immortal. You have immortal. That's where the desire for us to be immortal comes from. But if you start looking for that desire, fulfilling that desire in this material world, then it's never going to happen. Right? Because and the reason why we are looking for it in this material world is because soul is in this material world, but it belongs to the spiritual world. But because it is eternal by nature, it desires eternality in this world. Prabhupada says in the purport, he's saying that, where is it? He says something. Yes, in this paragraph, Prabhupada says, oops, sorry. What did I do? Yes, so the whole point is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? So I am a tiny Hiranyakashipu because I'm trying to achieve immortality, but through the artificial ways. And then Prabhupada also calls it, in the next one, says, this instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Right? One-sided attempt is just the material part, no spiritual part. Yeah? God, you stay wherever you are, I'll stay wherever I am. I'm not going to cross your path, you don't cross my path, we both enjoy our life. No, so that's not the way it works. Prabhupada is telling us. One-sided attempt does not happen. Right? So, and what is that struggle? Everyone is struggling hard for existence, Prabhupada is saying. And everyone is trying to struggle, right? All of us trying to survive. There's always anxiety. You see a little bird, the little bird is always looking around. Right? If you see a little bird, it's eating, it's still looking around because it's fearful. Right? If you go close to them, they freak out and fly away. And even if you say, "Oh, I like birds," they say, "Nah, I'm not hanging around you. I don't trust you." So because we are small and everybody eats us, so and they have done this not just them. Every living entity has done this for lifetimes in a row. So we are fearful, right? So, and this is the nature of this world. Kuntha. Kuntha means anxiety. Why kuntha means no anxiety. Spiritual word, right? So that's the first part of the verse. Prabhupada is explaining how immortality is impossible materially by the two examples. Then Prabhupada, in the rest of the purport, he's going to talk about how immortality comes from Krishna's teaching. And then he'll give us a lot of details in there. So let's look at those. Okay. So let's look at this. Okay, Prabhupada is saying, so he's right away coming to the essence. He's telling us, go to the scriptures. You have to learn from the revealed scriptures. And I really like this sentence that Prabhupada has put here, that he's saying the Lord has kindly delivered the above mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful human being that his home is not here in this material world. No? I meet, not just me, every book distributors, they meet people every now and then who tell them that our way is wrong, that what we are doing is wrong, and I'm going to hell. I remember for the July 4th, we were at National Mall, and there was one devotee whom this Afro-American lady just came and just started screaming at him. He said, "Why are you misguiding all these people? Only Jesus Christ is the way." Right? But Prabhupada never said that. There was a show in 1970, sometime in late 1960s. Prabhupada was invited to a show. It was called the Lake Crane Show. And there, Prabhupada was invited, and the Christian priest was invited. And that the host, trying to incite Prabhupada and the other guy, he asked very direct question. He said, "Oh, Prabhupada, tell me, who chants only somebody when he chants Hare Krishna will go back to spiritual world, or somebody else can go also?" So Prabhupada said, "No, anybody who loves God, who develops love of God, can go back." And then the same question was asked to the Christian priest. He said, no, only by Jesus Christ can you go back. So Prabhupada never taught us that, oh, only our path is right and nobody else's path is right. And his mantra was very simple. It comes from the scripture. He says, Savai pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahetukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. First canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse number 6. It tells us that that pumsam means human beings, paro dharmo means the topmost dharma for all humanity is by which we can develop loving devotional service towards God. We are not sectarian. So, right? Anything that can help us develop, increase our love for God is religion. And anything which does not is called cheating religion. Right? So, is our religion making us loving towards God, loving towards God's other living entities? If not, there is something wrong. Right? But we see so much animosity amongst religions nowadays. But if we practice it sincerely, we will get it. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, then he would go to a church or a mosque, he would become very happy. He says, "This is my God," but he's being practiced he's being worshipped in a different way. So, but then somebody can ask you why to become Hare Krishna. Can somebody tell me why do you become a Hare Krishna? Why did you become an Hare Krishna and not why did you pick up some other religion? Any thoughts? Nobody wants to share.
I can say that fortunately I was born in India, so since beginning we had that exposure
Okay.
of
That's
either
good.
worshipping like some deity. Then before being associated with devotees, of course I was more inclined towards like some other god, but then my parents became Vaishnava, and it's what I saw, how like they are conducting themselves, how others like other devotees are conducting themselves, that drew me towards this.
Okay.
So that's why this is my situation.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good point you bring up. Anybody else wants to share? Why Hare Krishna? Why not anything else? Why not? There's BAPS. There is something else. There's a lot of that. Or even broader than that. There's Hindu, there's Islam, there's Christianity. Why Hare Krishna? Anybody wants to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Growing up in India, we get attached to various deity forms and demigods.
Mhm.
But certainly when you come into contact with Hare Krishna, it's something of a very different kind of experience. And whatever, my personal experience is that, this mantra ultimately gives you what Prabhupada has predicted. It is tried and tested mantra. And we experience that kind of bliss, which really assures us that, yes, you are onto the right path and you're progressing rightly. And certainly, whatever Prabhupada has said up till so now comes out to be true just by practicing that mantra. So that is my stand.
Well, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Anybody else has any thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
yeah. As we know, like with example, like Prabhupada have given, like that planting the water thing, right? So, like all the stems, branches, like everything are like demigods, and so when we plant on the root, so that spreads to everybody. So all the demigods are like the branches, leaves, fruits, and everything. So when we come to know that Krishna is like Supreme Personality, when we come into Krishna consciousness, so that is one example we can give. So by that we can follow the Krishna consciousness.
Okay, that's a very good point. Yeah, these are very good points that you all are bringing out. Yes. And See, every theology, every religion has different levels of evolution. And you mentioned some of the, and you very, I think all of you nicely mentioned some objectives, some very objective measurements, objective ways by which we can know which is the best, right? For example, we it's auspicious, right? It brings happiness to us, Achyut Radhe Mataji was saying. So there's auspiciousness. So that's one measurement by which we can look at any religion. Is it bringing that auspiciousness in this world, in me, in general? Then is the religion eternal? Is it relevant in all time, place, and circumstances? Right? That's also another way of looking at a religion. Intimacy. Does it give me a detailed information and intimate knowledge about God? Is it beautiful? Beautiful in the sense that in the language, in the culture, the way it's been presented, is there beauty in it? And then most importantly, is it accessible? And if you notice, the principle, the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita stands tall on all these five things: eternality, intimacy, auspiciousness, beauty, and accessibility. So if any time anybody asks you in the future that why did I become a Hare Krishna, you can tell them that, and you all said it, I just kind of reiterated it and concise it in a different way, but you all pointed these principles out. But yeah, these are the five principles where we can judge whichever religion we are looking at. You can look at any religion on these five standards, and you can find out, is that the best or not? Right? For example, some say, oh no, only if you follow us, then you're going back. So you're restricting. It's not accessible to all people. It's not eternal. It's not relevant in all time, place, circumstance, country, state. No, it's not. So it just falls short of that. Yeah. Some religions or some followings, they are not beautiful. They're not beautiful in language. They're not beautiful in culture. They're not beautiful in their rituals. Yeah. Involves killing of animals probably, or eating meat or something. That's just not beautiful. So you can look at it from these five parameters. And yes, so that's our supreme dharma. So as Prabhupada is saying that, so Prabhupada he's saying it, he's very open, and this is his intelligence, that he's saying scriptures are given all over the world. Yeah, that will remind you that this material world is not your place. And all of the religions say that. Like even Islam says it, Christianity says it. But then Prabhupada put it in such a way that we could actually take it home and practice it. So it suddenly becomes more accessible for us when it comes on that. So yeah, that's a way to understand which is the best. Then Prabhupada says,
Krishna,
yes.
okay,
Yes.
continue, Prabhu. I'm sorry. I
No,
thought
go
you-
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I have a question,
Sure.
and that happened because somebody asked me, and I was not able to accurately answer that question. They asked why only Hare Krishna mantra, why not Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya or Gayatri mantra or any other mantra? Why only this?
Why only Hare Krishna mantra? So
Why can't I chant?
Just go ahead. Or did I lose you?
That person asked, why can't I chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya? Why can't I chant the Gayatri mantra? Or why can't I chant Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama? Or many other, mantras? Why only this?
So the one thing to understand is, how to put it? Other mantras are not wrong. It's not like they're wrong. I'm not going to say that. Right? But we have to understand that which mantra gives us the complete package. That's why it's called the Maha Mantra. It's not, yes, you can do Gayatri Mantra. But if you see the Gayatri Mantra, what is it saying? Om Bhur Bhuva Swa Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhime Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. It's talking about different realms, right? Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. So that's, for example, it's talking about those. So you have to actually even know the meaning of the words, right? It's not just we keep saying, okay, yeah, this mantra is also same, that mantra is also same. It's not that. You have to understand the Hare Krishna mantra is giving me a relationship with the Supreme. There is some amount of, or actually, there's an amount of sweetness to it. There's an amount of a relationship to it. We are asking Krishna that, Krishna, I want to be engaged in your service. And there is a personal aspect to it. We are bringing Krishna's name in it. Right? For example, you can say Om, right? Om, yeah, Om is fine, but Om does not give us a personal aspect of Krishna. It's still on a on an impersonal platform. So there are many ways of looking at it, Mataji. I don't know what exactly that person's question was. Was that person specifically asking you about any specific mantra? But in general, we have to look at the completeness that is being provided by the mantra to us. You cannot just say that, okay, this mantra is okay, that mantra is okay. And you also have to understand that we are coming through a lineage, as you were mentioning, that we know it's perfect. We have tasted it, we have relished it. Right? I want to see how many people have relished or been able to relish this beauty that the Hare Krishna mantra has provided to millions of people. Which other mantra has done that? Let's look at it practically also. And I don't know if any other mantra has done that. So you have to look at it from a few other perspectives also. That it's not just that, okay, does it provide you that personal aspect? Number one. Does it provide you a complete picture of who you are and what your relationship is and what you are asking from Krishna? Right? And then also understanding that, impersonal or personal aspect. And then I mentioned about our relationship. So there's amount of personal relationship there. And then also it gives me a result, right? That's the more important part. So if there is some other mantra that gives you the same amount of result and also is corroborated by the Shastras, feel free to take that mantra. Does that make sense, Madhuri?
Yes, Prabhu, because I did said most of the things what you said. That person was not kind of satisfied because I explained my personal experience also. And also one thing I mentioned was that other mantras, they require certain kind of, special way to recite. And this mantra can be spoken anytime, anywhere. That also I said, like in any condition.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point
I
you bring up.
explained, but that person was not kind of satisfied. So I thought maybe, but what is wrong with the Sri Krishna Sharna Mama? Is it not equivalent to Hare Krishna mantra? Because that is
It's not.
also.
It's not because once again, first of all, Krishna never comes all by himself alone. Anywhere, Prabhupada has already clearly taught us Krishna never comes alone. He always comes with that entourage. He comes with his friends. He comes with his loved ones. He comes with Radharani. So when we remove the energy from the energetic, so we are bypassing the energy. We are bypassing Radharani, which becomes an aparad. We should not do that.
But Shri again is Radharani, Shri Krishna.
Well, Shri is a sign of respect, right? It's not necessarily
No,
Radharani.
Prabhu, Shri is in their those who recite that mantra, they are addressing it to Radha, Shri Krishna Sharnama. They are not addressing it to directly Krishna. Those who recite that mantra, for them that is the meaning.
So where does this mantra come from? That's the other thing I would like to ask there.
This is for the this mantra is recited by the Pushti Margi people.
No, I'm asking, is there a scriptural reference for it? That's what I'm asking.
I mean, that's what that person explained to me.
No, that's what I'm saying. And that's one more thing I told you, right? We have scriptural reference of the Hare Krishna mantra. It comes from Kali Santana Upanishad. It's been told, and we have been told across the Bhagavatam about chanting the names of it. So That's was one more thing I told you, right? So we have to understand that where is it coming from? Is it valid? For example, when Prabhupada was around, they started chanting a mantra. What was that? Uh, Nitai Chaitanya Radhesham, something like that. I don't know the exact mantra. And Prabhupada stopped that. He said, no, that's not the right mantra. You cannot just create some mantra out of thin air by yourself. So I don't know whether the mantra is there, but then you have to understand that the Hare Krishna mantra is the most intimate mantra. It's like, for example, if you want to call your father, you call him Mr. John, Mr. John, you know. But then when you call him Papa, then there is some love there. There's some intimacy there. Right? So that's something to understand. Yes, yeah, those are the couple of aspects that I can think of on top of my mind, Matthew. That is most intimate, and then also it's backed up by Shastra. It's backed up by the acharyas in our lineage. So yeah, so if you want to have a personal relationship with Krishna, this is the mantra. But there might be other things, but then they might be varying in the intimacy time. So yeah, that's my thought, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhu, a nice explanation by you. So more points to add when we have to say something about that mantra.
Sure. Yeah, no, and probably what I said to you, I just probably said a few things. I can summarize it and probably also tell you again. I'll summarize these.
Yes,
But yeah, but that's the essence, yeah, that because it's a very intimate mantra, and then it's backed up by Shastras.
Mhm.
So if we find any mantra that is so intimate, that has created such a revolution in this world as Prabhupada did, please use that. As I was just giving you, we're not saying that, oh, only my religion is the best. No, we're not saying that. If anything helps you develop the love of God the way the Hare Krishna mantra does, please take it up. Right? But then it's up to you whether you want to take that risk or not. Because what we are doing is backed up by Shastras, it's backed up by Prabhupada, it's backed up by the Acharyas, and we are in a safe hand. But we can concoct some other mantra. I don't know whether it has the same level of intimacy, whether it has the same level of Shastric support. Feel free. People can feel free. And you cannot convince anybody, Mataji. You can bring a horse to a lake, but you cannot force them to drink. You can give somebody an idea, but you cannot make them think. So don't worry about convincing others, especially if they are not in a mindset of humility. That's what I have realized in my life. So yeah, just wanted to share. But I'll also compile all this and I'll also send you separately.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so yes, so we talked about how how to understand this aspect that there are other scriptures also. Okay, then Prabhupada says the miseries of this material world serve to indirectly remind us of our incompatibility with dead matter. Prabhupada now is giving us very practical ways that how this material world will not give us immortality. So now there is misery in this world, as we all know. There's nothing new there. We all know there is misery in this world. And it's a source of, as Prabhupada is telling us, it's a source of, why are these black boxes coming? Can you just give me stop a second? Okay. Yep, it's a source of misery, as Prabhupada is telling. And what's the incompatibility Prabhupada is talking about here? Can somebody give me some examples? What's the incompatibility? Have you seen any incompatibility in this material world? One incompatibility that I have seen is that there might be 100 things that might be going right for me, but then one wrong thing will spoil the whole fun for me, right? A single grain of sand can mess up the whole taste of kheer, the pudding, right? So that's one incompatibility I have observed. Right? There is some incoherence, there is some incompatibility here. I'm looking for everlasting happiness, and this world is offering me the opposite, right? So, and that is leading to many problems, right? What is that problem? That Dehatma Buddhi, this bodily identification leading to all my problems, right? But then, because even though I'm incompatible to this matter, I get enamored by this matter. I get attracted to it, right? We as spiritual beings are looking through this body at something in this material world, and we feel like, oh, I want this. right? Dhyato Vishayam Pumsam Sangasteshu Jayate, that verse, right? So we don't have a Sangha in this world, we just imagine it. And that imagination is giving me all the miseries. We actually have nothing to do with this matter, right? As Prabhupada is telling us, we're incompatible. And there's a frustration that I always feel between my expectation and what the reality is, right? All this world is very gross, and I, as a living entity, am at a very subtle level. That's the incompatibility Prabhupada is referring to here. And then the next thing Prabhupada says, intelligent living entities generally take note of these reminders and engage themselves in the culture of Vidya or transcendental knowledge. All right. Right. So can somebody tell me what are these reminders Prabhupada is talking about here? Do you see any reminder in this world that this world is full of misery? Do you see any reminders on a daily basis? Or you
Can
might
you
not
hear
be
me,
seeing.
Prabhu? Prabhu?
Yes, I can hear you now, Mati.
Yeah, so the reminders we have is everyday life, Prabhuji. Like, if something goes wrong, we get upset, we get angry. Sometimes people blame God, why did this happen to me? And age itself is a reminder, right? Every day we get old, every day we're in pain, we're suffering. If something happens to our kids, we get upset and things like that. So every day, every single second of the day, every breath we take is a reminder for me.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. It's a very good example. Age is a very good, right? Age and mortality. If we don't acknowledge that we are aging and we are mortals, then it becomes an immense source of misery for us. I just keep patching up. I'll get a Botox injection here, or some creams or something of that sort. It's inevitable, but then it can become a source of misery for us if we attach ourselves to it. Yeah, that's a very good thing. Anybody else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I wanted to share a thought, that on this topic of misery, when we look at, like world events, particularly the Middle East, every day there are like 50, 100 people, dying due to the Israeli-Palestinian, the war. And it's just horrifying, like the cruelty, that's going on, the genocide. It's just unbelievable, how people are dying, and you'd never understand what's going on unless you're following what these events, and how this can't go on. One may, at least I think it's a genocide, but others may have a different opinion, so perfectly respect it. But here, our country is supplying billions of dollars in weapons, and the world is watching, and like no one really able to do anything, and just imagine like what the fate of these people, what kind of misery they're going through, and so such is this existence that we live in such. I mean, we here in U.S. may not be particularly impacted, but knowing that all this is happening and there's nothing we can really do about it, that's just terrifying. It's very terrifying. And, if you have any kinds of like compassion, and if you understand what's going on, you would just question, how all this can be going on. So, and the world is watching, and nothing really that. I mean, there might be countries that could potentially, involve themselves, but it just seems like, that they're watching countries like France, Germany, that I'm sure that there's countries that can actually intervene and stop the bloodshed, but it's just not happening. But
Yeah.
overall, the point is that the level of misery that's going on. It's just like, I don't think a lot of us really know
Yeah.
the full picture of what's going on. So
Yeah, we don't know that. Yes. And all this comes from attachment to material possessions, right? It's all just about that. So something, my country, my people, and all that's just material possession. It's just tying ourselves, trying our essence to dead matter. That's what we are doing. You very rightly put it out, right? And then all that anxiety that comes with it, because everything becomes so uncertain, right, for people. So then it becomes a source of misery. Yeah, yeah. All these are source of misery for us.
okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you,
Haribol.
Prabhu. Yeah. Haribol, Prabhu.
Yeah, I've been trying to get through to your class,
Okay.
and I shut everything off and came back on.
Okay.
But I had 4 or 5 points I wanted to make, but
Sure.
one was really that I give class on the Bhagavad Gita for so many years. I have to read the Bhagavad Gita. I have to read it. I have to read it. If you don't read it, how can you talk to people? How can you share anything? How can you give something new? Every week I have to do it for 8 years, forever. I don't know how long it's been, but I came to the conclusion that Super Soul guided me, Prabhupada guided me, and Prabhupada told me, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken for Arjuna to wake up to the Super Soul. He said the Bhagavad Gita, the first thing he had to do in the Bhagavad Gita was let Arjuna understand the difference between spirit and matter. So again, I always had to talk about the science. This is not some type of way to control the feeling of the masses, I would tell the students. There's nothing to do. I can't give you religion as you see it, but I can give you a science between spirit and matter. So the first point of spirit and matter is to understand different types of energy. And so this is science again. It's all science. The word of energy, the science, spirit and matter, all that is science. So then I told them, I only have maybe 13 classes a semester. So I realized Krishna says, like you were saying, Krishna says a few times, well, at least between 11 or 13 times he says you're not the body. He has that in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
So then I realized, so I would give the classes like that. And at the end of the class, at the end of the semester, this one Jewish girl had all different types of people coming to the class. She loved the holy name. She'd wear sunglasses so no one could see her closing her eyes and just freaking out on chanting when it was time to chant. And she asked me, she goes, Steve, why do you keep telling me I'm about this spirit soul? Why do you keep saying that? I said, well, do you understand there's a difference? And she goes, yes. I said, okay, then you ready for the next step? She goes, yes. And I said, okay, and she was graduating. I could have had another semester to work her over, but I couldn't. And I said, well, if you could, now you come to the point of the spirit soul. Now you have to understand, what is the spirit soul's position? That's all. If that's who you are, what is your position? And that is, you put the Lord in the center of all your activities. So you have your Tesla, you have your house, you have your bank account, but you keep the Lord in the center and only use that as paraphernalia. So you mean to tell me if I just have God in the center of all my activities for the rest of my life, that's it? I said, that's the perfection. So, that was the amazing little thing that I wanted to add during that point, because this is the beginning and this is the foundation of us moving on. Because what you're talking about, the material world, if you only identify with that, then all you do, like Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, you try to calculate it, adjust it, and control it, and you do real good. As a matter of fact, America is the best at controlling and working over material energy and getting it to a point that, wow, we've almost created a heaven on earth. Almost. Sorry, you still aren't winning. And Prabhupada said there's a pinprick in society at large. Well, what is it? It's the lack of understanding that this is only to be utilized as paraphernalia for him, and everything. That energy is for a certain purpose only. And otherwise, for your sense gratification, your material advancement, you get lost. You lose. You're a loser. So when it goes to the point of complete contamination, then we have the things that Prabhu was just talking about, that it's so scary, so hellish, so lack of compassion, so that the depth of this nightmare is the depth of people's attachment to the wrong thing. And it just keeps manifesting. We had a problem. We had a weakness of heart. You had a weakness of heart that was monumental. And what happened? You got stuck in this material world. You came here because of that, because I can't help you. Your heart's not into mine. You're not flowing with me. The one became the many for his pleasure. And right away, you wanted something else. I can't. Okay, if that's your heart, there's a place. I got a place where you can try to lord over and be the center and do all the things that you want to do. And then you get here and you have a second weakness of heart. You get attached to that illusion. And it's a whole big nightmare. But I like that, when you talked about that Bhagavad Gita, I capsulized it in each semester, and go on. And I would, give people bits and pieces, but my classes were centered around, you're not the body. You have to wake up to that. Then you were saying about Jesus saying, I am the way. See, and people take it, they add a few other words like only way. Yeah, and no, there's only one way, okay? Only one way. And that is the spiritual master. That's the only way. Only way. And the spiritual master, Prabhupada said, Jesus is our spiritual master. What does this mean? Then no one has a complete monopoly over the science of love of God. But there is only one way to understand it, and that is through the spiritual master, period. It says it in the Gita. And who's the spiritual master? Well, the spiritual master is Krishna, the original one. And anyone that represents him in a bona fide position, that's the spiritual master. Because the spiritual master, when Srila Prabhupada, I was following Srila Prabhupada for 8, 10, 12, I don't know, maybe 15 years, and I didn't get initiated by him. And when I realized from studying that I needed to get this special link of initiation, and at the same time, because I was so attached to Prabhupada, I could do a lot of things before I even got initiated. I could see that I was empowered because I only wanted to do what Prabhupada wanted. I understood that. And I understood that unofficially, as anyone reads one letter of my words, they're already initiated. But I wanted to be officially initiated also. And so when that happened, Prabhupada had left the planet before I could do that. And I thought, oh, well, I just tried to figure this out, but it took years. And then finally I decided, okay, let me do it. And I tried to let me do it. See, I tried to let me do it instead of, I went shopping for a guru. And that didn't work. I chose one guru and it was a nightmare. As soon as I chose him, it was a nightmare. And when I went to chant, I couldn't chant. I felt like something was wrong. And I said, oh, what did I do? What? And then I started, well, I didn't offend any devotee. I didn't offend somebody. I know the rules of chanting. I acted okay for the last 2 days. The only thing I did was wanted to get initiated. And as soon as I said it, oh my God, a cloud lifted off me. And I realized, oh, I made a mistake. So I had to actually tell that spiritual master I couldn't do it. And I picked another one. And I was shopping again. And finally, I had to do the same thing with him too. And then I said, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. Krishna has to help me. Krishna, you have to take care of me. And then through other devotees, I heard someone's telling me that voice, who to do. These people told me you should take shelter of someone you're compatible with. You're psychologically linked to him, and there's things that you will do for him because of his energy being similar to yours in your personality. That will help you. And I thought, okay, well, that still didn't help me. But then a couple of times, two innocent people told me Bhakti-tirtha. And so and I've known him for a long time. He's a great friend of mine because we love book distribution. So he was always a monster buddy of mine. And then I asked him to get initiated. He said, yes, whatever I can do to help you on your path. Well, when that happened, he later on, within a short period of time, he had melanoma. He had to get his foot cut off. I had to go into and spend the night. My friend called me, was it Mukunda? What's her name?
Mukunda Goswami.
Madhavacharya.
Oh, okay.
Madhavacharya called me, and he said, hey, can you come up here? Maharaj, someone has to be in the room with him overnight. And so I went up there, and I walked into the room, and he was sitting there. I had to come in and do my night shift with him, and the devotees were there, and he was there, and he goes, oh, a Vaishnava's come. Oh, now I'll get a good night's sleep. And I told him, I said, don't start that now, Maharaj, don't start it. And so then we were together alone, and I said, Maharaj, I'm disturbed. And he said, what? And I said, well, I spent my life, this new spiritual life, dedicated to Srila Prabhupada. I'm very chaste to him. I'm so chaste to him. And now I'm letting you in my life. What? This is my difficulty here. And he thought for a moment, and he looked at me. He said, the spiritual master is one.
Mm.
And I still didn't get it then. I didn't get that point, but I just, I said, okay, yeah, but because I was so immature that I thought, no, you can't be equal to Prabhupada, but that's not the point, that one is equal to the other, but one is properly aligned and representing properly. He is the one. So, so I had to learn from that, but the whole point comes down to, there's only the spiritual master that can take you back to Godhead. So I think sometimes when they're saying that Jesus is the only one, they didn't catch the point, and because I also know Christians that are very advanced, amazingly advanced, sincere people. And they know what I'm saying is the right thing, and I had this one friend that was the head of the prison ministries in Maryland. And he and I'd go for walks, and I'd look at him. I said, you know what, Reverend? He said, what? I said, I ain't afraid of you. And he looked at me, he goes, I ain't afraid of you. And we were talking in reference to that. We can say whatever we want without feeling that will disturb the other. And because the main thing is never agitate anyone on their path, always encourage them, and be like a bumblebee and get the nectar where you can. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And when I realized that out on Sankirtan, instead of trying to go tit for tat and push and this and that, I would just humbly tell the Muslims, oh yeah, do Allah, surrender to the Lord and follow Quran. That's your program. That's amazing. And when I would glorify them, because I was sincere in that glorification of following directly and purely, those people would just melt. They would melt. And so I realized, just be positive. But in some ways, yeah, they're right. Jesus is the only way. The only way means the only by guru only. That's all. By spiritual master only. So when I would see that, I'd say, okay, but I wouldn't, get agitated by they're trying to say, so you don't have the only way. Well, they don't know. It's just a poor fund of knowledge,
Yeah.
It comes from a poor fund of knowledge. They're sincere, but they're still immature,
That's true.
And then the other point about the chanting of the holy name. One time a devotee asked Prabhupada, well, why don't we chant this? Because why don't we chant that? And this is really, and Prabhupada said, we chant the Hare Krishna mantra because Mahaprabhu chants that. We chant because he chants. And if now,
Yeah.
who is Mahaprabhu? Mahaprabhu is Krishna. He's the Supreme Personality, setting the example. So it's not minimizing or saying one is trumped by the other. The only thing that's amazing to us is we follow distinctly and precisely what Mahaprabhu did. I mean, we are linked in a program that is dictating and outlined by the Supreme Personality himself on a special program only 500 years ago. So in reference to that, Prabhupada said, well, we chant because Mahaprabhu chants. And I thought to myself, oh my God, simple but intense, because there are a ton of mantras, and
Yeah.
even I would get upset with people that would be doing the Om. I was just saying, why are they doing that? And then finally, after years of reading and studying, I saw that yes, it's even in the Bhagavad Gita. It is fine. It's the highest representation of the Supreme in itself as well. So therefore, what do we do it for? I mean, we do it because of Lord Chaitanya. That keeps it simple. Because if you try to go down the road of extremities and this and that, sometimes we're missing the point. I mean, because like you was trying to say, these are bona fide mantras. Everyone, certain people have these understandings, but now you can't make, like you also said, you can't just concoct something or say these different mantras either. Put the words together and make your own mantra. No. But so I think, when Prabhupada said that ended discussion.
Yeah.
It keeps it simple. It's not saying, well, why you chant, what you're chanting is right or wrong. All I know is it's absolutely right on the path that we follow under Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So those are the 2 or 3 things I wanted to say. But also the realization, like even your question that you gave us last week from the Isopanishad, that's the same thing here again. Who are you focusing on? Who's that supreme energy source? When you align yourself properly, like you were asking, well, what's it do then? If you do that, what do you get out of it? Well, spiritually, what do you get? And materially, what do you get? You get a position of passive alignment and elevated understanding for an existence to pacify who you are, the soul. That alignment of spirituality is the whole program. And if you don't understand the evilness of birth, death, old age, and disease, like it says in the Gita, what are you talking about? Well, because the material energy is not to be attached to. That you have to have real understanding of what knowledge is, and to see the difficulty behind it. And when you see the difficulty behind it, just like you were saying, that does anybody have a reason what wakes you up? Does anything tell you about this? Hello. The whole thing here is a nightmare, And the only way the nightmare ends is what? When you align yourself with the Lord, then what do you have? What is it? Prophylactic. And what was the other word?
Antiseptic.
Antiseptic. That's it. I mean, you can't get poisoned, and you can't get condemned because you're living in a bubble, the KC bubble, and you got it together in reference to that. And only one has to wake up with extreme attachment. And when you get to a certain point, at that point, the super soul guides you. Then it's an easy program. He'll guide you right on how to navigate this planet, even though it appears it's a nightmare. Even appears that some even God brothers are bothering you, or upsetting you, or disheartening you. But if you still persist, then you'll be fine. I mean, the Prabhupada crossing the ocean and doing all the things and putting up with the nightmares and everybody stealing his properties and doing this and that. He wanted to go back to Radha Damodar too, a couple times. But this whole mission of Srila Prabhupada is a representation of what happens and how one can navigate the path no matter what. Unconditionally, he showed us all the conditions that came, or all the conditions that we live under. He was above it and beyond it, and he didn't even have to do that. But for the betterment of all of us, he showed by his example, because when we're not here and we can't personally say something to him, we can also just reflect. What did he do? What happened when this happened to him? What was his example? Because we have to get healthy. He's made us healthy. And now we have to learn how to navigate it. And it's so-called nightmare. It's not real nightmare if you have attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. It's not. But we have to come to that level, and we can't be artificial. So that was like 40 minutes of things I wanted to say, and I couldn't. Thank you for your mercy, though.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, and Prabhupada says something like that, as you were saying. Right? Prabhupada is saying in here that make the best use of a bad bargain, and don't misuse it. I'm giving you a proper system. Just follow it, and follow the simple path strictly, and you go back home, back to Godhead. He says that. I really like this statement Prabhupada makes, to make the best use of a bad bargain. And he's telling us, you're in this material world, practice dharma, artha, kama. So that's, so dharma, and you do work according to the dharma. And, you can satisfy yourself. Some sense gratification is okay here and there. And that eventually, but then should be aligned with the higher nature. Right? And and once we put all these things in line, the dharma, artha, and kama, then we can start understanding everything. And then we start aspiring for liberation. That's the eventual goal. And that's explained gradually in the scriptures. So we can live harmoniously. And at the end, we can elevate ourselves beyond the material world. So goal is not to get stuck in these things, dharma, artha, and kama. Is to eventually go transcend them. And we have used those to go back home, back to Godhead. So all the material knowledge that's being referred to here should help us in eventually redirecting ourselves to the spiritual world. And Prabhupada always stressed that maintenance of body and mind is required. We need material. Some people, people need material fulfillments to happen. Material needs to be fulfilled. But that's not the goal. That's the thing that Prabhupada always wanted. Don't make that your goal. Don't make a worst use of the bad bargain. We should move towards spiritual upliftment. But if we start moving towards spiritual degradation, that's a very bad use of the bad bargain you already have. It entangles us further in the karmic cycle, prolongs our stay here. Right? So, yeah, that's a very good point here, that to make the best use of a bad bargain.
You can see here too. I mean, it's a darn shame. I don't, what is it, 1972? It's 50 years. I've been doing this for 50 years. And I look back and I say, oh, what? This was the first book I read, this and the Bhagavad Gita. And they were wonderful. I'm looking at them now, and they are the most, this is a PhD, the Sri Isopanishad, because it takes you from the mentalness, and it takes you all the way into the depths of this understanding. And when I was younger, I just loved this book. I had no idea what I loved. I had no idea about anything. And even when I, saw your two questions from last week, I started getting so mental. And I said, okay, now just relax. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? And then Super Soul gave me some dictation. But I mean, this paragraph, like you said, make the best. Well, right there it says, you can't wipe out your temperature altogether trying to get rid of a disease. You can't be that extreme. You're going to have to eat. You're going to have to function on the planet, and you have to do the best you can. Yeah, that's it. The best you can means the best use of bad bargain. It's so beautiful. But this complexity of this Sri Isopanishad, is really so first class and so elevated. I mean, this is where you see every sentence. Okay, this sentence is great. Oh, wow, this sentence is great. And pretty soon, you're going to have tabs all over and things highlighted. And pretty soon, 50 years later, the whole thing is highlighted. Because you marvel over the best of a bad bargain, and you miss the next three sentences. And maybe 5 years later, you come back and you read the next three sentences. Oh man, this makes this even more complimentary and more able to understand. It becomes so layered in the depths of understanding as we just keep going, and you can't do it artificial. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been trying to do it artificial since I started this thing. And every now and then I wake up and realize, don't be like that. You know, don't go shopping. Don't do, you know, if you just try to be sincere within your heart somehow, if you can be sincere, you will not be cheated. And Prabhupada said, with a cool head, just progress and everything will be revealed to you. You know,
Yeah.
I want to get it over with yesterday. I want to get this and that. It's not I, me, and mine. You get past that I, me, and mine and realize, you know, the one became the many. You have to realize about the one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. And then that's what Prabhupada is saying. As you were saying, we have to be sincere. Prabhupada here says, misguided men think that religion should be maintained because it contributes to economic development, which is required for sense gratification. They have figured it the opposite way. Now they want to that's the misuse. That's the bad use of a bad bargain already. Right? The foundation of life should be character. That's what dharma is about. Then when we have a proper character, then whatever we go out in the material world and do our jobs, they're founded on proper characters. And that help us reach our full potential. Right? So many people, you know, they might be rich, but they have a vacuum in their heart because they have pursued that richness with improper dharma, with a improper attitude, with a poor character. It was not founded on something deeper. Right? So, but then that's what the dharma is not the goal of Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, you want to do your duties in this material world. We have to do that. But we also have to understand that all these duties are meant us to eventually elevate us to our spiritual level. Arjun's Swadharma and Paradharma were both the same. So he was asked to fight by Krishna, and he was also a fighter by nature. So what we have to do is understand what is our dharma and align it with our superior dharma of being spiritual in nature. That's what we have to do. And that happens through introspection and understanding. That's something we do. Right? And then eventually Krishna says, Sarvdharman parityaja, leave everything, and then you come to me. That's the eventual thing he asks. So you live your life, but you spiritualize your karma, whatever you are doing in this world, through our intention, through our motivation, through sincerity. And then eventually, that all will eventually culminate into bhakti. And then spiritualizing our karma will eventually lead to prema, love of God. Right? That's the way that this verse is asking us to do. That's what it means that don't try to avoid material world. So Krishna himself says in the 18th chapter, he says that every action has some fault in it. So don't give up the action. Right? Like smoke covers fire. Right? So Vaishyas, you know, people who are businessmen, they have to lie. Kshatriyas have to kill. So don't give up your duty just because there is a fault. So do your dharma, try to avoid as much bad karma as you can, but then also understand it's a part of this world. We don't try to run away from it, but then we don't try to make it worse either. We just do it with the mindset that this is all for Krishna. That's what Prabhupada is explaining us in this purport, and that's what this verse means. So to summarize, side by side, doing material and spiritual things. What side by side means is that we are practicing our Krishna consciousness, even though at the same time we are mixed up with these nescient activities. We are all born up in this complex world. We are in a complicated situation. So what we do is that we keep adding that one ingredient that will continue to uncomplicate our lives. So you keep adding drop by drop of it. That's the spiritual aspect that Prabhupada has given us. The chanting part, the reading, all that Prabhupada has given. So we keep adding that into our material life. And you keep adding more and more, and then a time comes, it takes over. It becomes our food rather than the medicine by which we started it with. Right? And then you'll get realizations. We'll have realizations, our experience. That is the ultimate evidence that will give us confidence in the path that we are walking on. That's the eventual goal that will come to, that it will have the confidence that, yes, what am I pursuing? I'm seeing the results. So this is the path I want to follow, and I'll keep on adding that special spiritual ingredient in it, and that it will eventually bring me to prema, love of God. So not avoid this material world, not get over engaged in it, but doing it just to maintain ourselves and use that maintenance also with a mindset of Krishna consciousness. Hey, I finished it before 8:30. Good. Any last minute points, anybody? No? Okay, we can wrap up then.